Hollywood might be back open, but it's not business as usual for our favorite Hollywood stars. You might have heard, but there's a small virus in the world right now. It's called Covid-19. It is having a devastating effect on the movie industry, with many productions being delayed or canceled and drawing the Hollywood machine to a grinding halt. While we are still awaiting on many movies to be released, such as Christopher Nolan's Tenet and the next installment of the Bond series, No Time to Die, there is a silver lining, with Hollywood beginning to restart again. But it will not be business as usual for our favorite actors and directors, with many new guidelines and advice coming into place, which will have a huge effect on not only the actors, but every department in the movie industry that helps them to shine. In this video, we'll take a look at some of the new rules and stipulations that cast and crew must undergo, including crazy new hygiene rules, a new definition to awkward sex scenes, and asking actors to go above and beyond for their art. These are some of the ways the movie industry will change after the party pooper that's been COVID-19. This one is probably the most obvious, but actors will have health checks before arriving on set to make sure they're good and healthy for filming. With the notable actors already coming down with COVID, including Tom Hanks and Idris Elba, stars are in no way immune to the virus, and with them being an integral piece of filmmaking, studios must make sure that their stars are healthy. But like the rest of us, actors have lives outside of the studio, meaning that they can be susceptible to catching the virus outside the studio and after initial testing. While it's unlikely that the stars will be tested daily, as that would be a tricky process to implement, the possibility of stars being regularly tested is highly possible. This of course would not just be limited to the actors, but the rest of the crew as well. But with the actors being the least expendable, they will be the ones most likely to be checked more often. It's highly unlikely that the actors will be thrilled about this, with testing being an uncomfortable and sometimes painful experience, just like watching an Adam Sandler movie. Oh, sorry, cheap shot. Not only will rigorous testing be implemented to protect the cast, but like the rest of the world, anyone who comes in contact with the actors or director will be required to wear both a face mask and gloves, which on the set of a Marvel movie would probably look like the Avengers assembling. In general, the crew will be isolated as much from the actors as possible, something we'll discuss later on in the video, but there are some people, such as the first AD, who will most likely need to come in close quarters with the actors. As mentioned previously, the health of the actors is crucial, and as you can't really perform wearing a mask and with your eyes, unless you're Tom Hardy, that means those around them as a requirement must be covered. This will have a knock-on effect throughout the departments, with anyone being deemed as expendable being cut down. For example, catering services. With buffets being a potential hotbed for germs, they will be cut and replaced with single-serve items that will be delivered directly to each individual, and those people will have to be covered up and wearing protective equipment. This could cause a mental strain for the actors being forced into relative isolation, and I've seen The Shining and The Lighthouse enough times to know that that is never a good thing. The props and art department can often be overlooked, but they are an integral part to making a movie look and feel right. But with health warnings telling us not to touch things for long periods of time as they hold germs, this can cause issues for props. The use of props are being actively discouraged, but sometimes they are important for the movie, especially if they're a MacGuffin. That's an object or device that serves to spark the plot. Imagine Lord of the Rings without an actual ring, or Infinity War without the Infinity Stones, or Harrison Ford without his angry finger point. Okay, not a prop, we just wanted to put that in there. When a prop is required for a scene though, actors will be encouraged to bring them themselves. So let's just hope that Chris Hemsworth has a spare Stormbreaker lying around. Actors bringing their own props isn't entirely unheard of, with Brad Pitt bringing in his own ties for the movie Seven, but that could mean that the artistry of props and wardrobe could be heavily diminished. If a prop is essential for the movie, and the actor doesn't happen to have it on hand, then the actors will have to rigorously wash their hands before use, and then the crew will sanitize it directly afterwards, which is basically what my wife has to do every time I touch something after eating Cheetos, so... An actor's job is primarily to, well, act, and a big part of that is through speech, whether it be quick, witty dialogue or searing monologues. the use of speech is usually vital for movies, but actors are actually being told to talk less, as there are concerns that this will cause spit to spread more easily. All I can think about is that scene in Friends between Joey and Gary Oldman. In fact, the actors are being told to stay as silent as possible to prevent the spread of water droplets, which I imagine will be a particularly tricky thing to do, unless of course you are Ryan Gosling, who just likes to look at you through the camera with those ice-cold pools of water he calls eyes, his stare like a siren's wail, calling you into the depths until you smash against the hard rocks of your soul, but I digress. While actors like Ryan Gosling may thrive with less talking, this can only make the actor's job more difficult, but the writers, they have to be more subtle with the message that they're trying to convey and rely heavily on the golden movie rule: show, don't tell. It's also likely that they'll be given less takes, with studios telling directors to cut down on takes to reduce time on set. So, no pressure then.
So was that like a pep talk?
As mentioned earlier, it's kind of hard for actors to perform while wearing a mask, but with spit flying, that means that they'll have to follow other social protocols. For those who cannot wear face coverings while performing, rules suggest that actors will have to remain 8 feet apart from one another. No, I am not talking about a Cole Sprouse movie. Of course, there will be scenes that would require actors to be considerably closer, but for regular conversation, they will most likely have to remain 8 feet apart, which for context is almost 2 Kevin Harts. This could potentially be awkward for blocking purposes and make it look like the characters are about to engage in like a Western-style duel. It could also make it harder for actors to riff off one another and to react to their co-workers' performance. And with the power of VFX, I am sure filmmakers will find a way around it and not just have it look like one of the actors' breath smells. As we said, while actors will be encouraged to remain 8 feet apart, there of course will be exceptions to the rule, including fight and sex scenes. But studios have been told to keep these to a minimum, and to make sure that any close quarter scenes that involve touching be limited. Sex scenes are awkward enough without having to be rushed. This is likely to mean that hand-to-hand combat scenes will be replaced with shoutouts or other forms of long-distance fighting, while sex or kissing scenes will be dramatically cutting down, meaning that we probably won't be having much on-screen romance for the next little while. How this will actually turn out remains to be seen, as hugging is something that can be managed, but kissing will be much trickier. Also, any actor who is uncomfortable performing anything close quarters will not be required to do so. So just like me in high school, we won't see a lot of kissing. It's not just the actors that will be keeping their distance from one another, but also the people filming them. As we already discussed, crew members will be kept as isolated from the cast as much as possible, meaning that close-up shots will be replaced by looming crane shots. Cameramen will be removed from these isolated locations where they can either shoot up high, like on a crane, or they will be in a remote location watching the action through a monitor. Sets will also be bigger and made to look smaller through the use of flying walls. So while the set may look the same size, social distancing processes will still be in effect. For some cinematographers and directors, this can be troubling, but this can also give them a chance to be creative and think outside the box and maybe use it to their thematic advantage. I imagine that we're going to see a trend in movies about isolation for the next little while.
Yeah, you're right on the money there, Aaron.
One of the departments that gets closest to the cast is easily the makeup department, but as that will break social distancing protocols, actors are being asked to apply their own makeup. I'm just imagining movies being led by actors who look like a Picasso painting. It'd be kind of funny. Anyway, this, however, can be an issue for movies that require prosthetics and heavy makeup to look the part, so aesthetic styles for characters may have to be scaled down significantly. This again, though, could allow actors to have some free reign. Just like Heath Ledger did with his Joker in The Dark Knight, doing the makeup themselves that can really help the actor get into the headspace of the character. And who knows, maybe we'll have a few Mrs. Doubtfires by the end of this pandemic. With travel restrictions still in place, it means that actors won't be able to go and film on location if that means international travel, meaning that they will likely perform in front of a green screen or just have the area recreated in the studio. It's unclear if any international filming will happen at all, or if a skeleton crew will be allowed access to a film on location, or if filming of a location will have to be delayed until the pandemic is past and restrictions have been removed. This could significantly cut into profits though, as the film relies on foreign investment and having Hollywood stars perform on location, and with the movie industry already taking a huge hit, this could be an even bigger blow for their success at the box office. Otherwise, actors will just have to rely on filming in front of an image of a famous location, just like your colleague Susan on a Zoom call. City locations and sets will be replaced with backlot or virtual sets. Cities aren't exactly great for social distancing, and you can't keep your stars safe if they're sandwiched in amongst 50 extras. To combat this, actors will be filmed either on a virtual set like they did in Season 1 of The Mandalorian, or in backlots to make it look like they're in a city. Used sets will have to be rehashed as well, and repurposed and extras will be green screened in to make them livelier and just more like reality. So instead of having someone sweat on you in the subway, they're gonna have it green screened in. If only that could happen in real life.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
What's the craziest rule? Which delayed movie do you want to see the most? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to Screen Rant for more interesting content. We'll see you next time.